So this is going to be a little bit controversial considering I run a paid advertising agency. But organic marketing is actually much more powerful than running paid ads. And I know, again, it sounds a little bit stupid because 95% of my videos on this channel are me talking about paid advertising, why they're so good, how to make them work, etc., etc. But the reality is that if you have a really strong organic following, then you have a completely unfair advantage over the rest of the competition. Now, there's a few things that you need, which we can talk about in this video, to make that organic marketing work effectively for you and actually be that unfair advantage. Because there's a lot of people out there who have large social media followings that don't make money whatsoever. In fact, I remember we did work with a client, and she came to us and they had like 500,000 followers, I think, on YouTube at the time, and maybe about just under 100K on Instagram. And we did a launch for her to her organic market and it flopped. I mean, literally less than 10K, 500,000 followers, 100K on Instagram. Now, you can argue that maybe my marketing was wrong, but one of them, which I'm sure we could have improved, but one of the main problems was that they had built their organic marketing, organic audience the wrong way. The content was wrong. Like, they didn't actually have a deep connection with their audience, and it was more just clickbait and views, and they were following them for the wrong reasons, which is obviously a whole different thing. So a good organic audience or good organic marketing is a lot more powerful than paid ads. I should probably put that in there. And one of the ways, or when I really understood the power of this, was actually a few years ago. And by that point, I'd had experience with paid advertising for a good couple of years. We're talking 2018. And at this time, I was still working at my last job I ever had. I was a marketer for an online coaching company. And the guy running it, it was all based on his personal brand. So I remember we went out for our Christmas meal at the start of December 2018. And we were having our meal, we were all chatting, and we were just discussing, okay, so what you guys doing for Christmas? Are you going to go home, see your families, et cetera, et cetera? And there was a few of us that weren't really sure what we were going to do. And we started talking about, how cool would it be if we went and spent like Christmas in the US, right? At that point, I think I'd only been to the US once in my life. And it was when I was younger with my family and stuff. So I'd never been to like the big cities like LA, New York, et cetera, et cetera. So we were all just fantasizing about that. But obviously at that time, I didn't have that much money and I probably couldn't afford like a big expensive trip to the US. And then the guy who I worked for, the guy who ran the company, he was just like, well, why don't we go for free? And I was like, what? Like, how does that work? And he was like, yeah, why don't we just get the trip to be paid for us? And I was like, well, what do you mean? And he was like, well, what if we go to the US and in the places that we go and visit, why don't we just run a short one-day event in those cities? We'll run the event, we'll make money, and that'll pay for the trip. And that's literally what we did. That night, I went home, I built the funnel, and we launched the funnel, and we basically ran an event in LA, New York, and Miami over a 3-week period, over that Christmas and New Year period from 2018 to 2019. The whole trip completely paid for. And we managed to do it literally just in a couple of weeks. When we went out for our Christmas meal, I believe it was, I have the date here, December the 6th, right? So what we did then is basically just for the next 2 weeks, built a sales page, sold an event, made a load of money up front because they had to pay for tickets for the event. That covered all of the flights, all the expenses for us all to go over there. And then when we're actually at the event as well, we actually sold and made more money on the back end. But it was all completely paid for. I spent a week in LA, a week in New York over New Year's Eve. And then the first week of January, we went to Miami for a week. And I had to work, 1 day on the event. And then the rest of the days, we could be tourists. And that trip is still up there with one of the best trips I've ever taken. Now, I'm not making this video just to reminisce about my previous travels. But the point is that's the power of a personal brand and having organic marketing, that you can just have an idea and within a couple of weeks, you've made, tens of thousands of dollars. Within a couple of weeks, you've paid for a bucket list trip, spending Christmas in LA, going to New York over Christmas and spending New Year's Eve there was, something I've dreamed about for a long time, and I've never had the finances to do it. And luckily, obviously, I know it wasn't my personal brand that paid for it, but because we had or worked for a company with a strong organic audience, we were just able to pay for the trip instantly. Now, I personally experienced the power of this earlier this year, because the question is like, okay, cool, but organic marketing is slow. Like, yes, okay, because people use I think Russell Brunson talks about this. He's like, if I want to buy a new house, I'll just go and run an webinar, I'll create an offer and I'll sell it. Boom. If I want to buy a new car, I'll create an offer, I'll go out and sell it, get that cash and I'll pay for the car. If I want to go on an expensive vacation, I'll create an offer and I'll go out there and sell it. And it's so much easier to create offers, test offers, sell offers, and make money if you have that strong organic marketing. Now, when we were running the events, I did run some ads just to drive some traffic, but no way did those ads alone, generate the profit that would have to cover the entire trip. And on that trip, there was I want to say between 5 to probably 8 team members, something like that. We stayed in a house in the Hollywood Hills, which is obviously super expensive. We stayed in a hotel right next to Central Park in New York over Christmas, over New Year, which is the most expensive time to go. So it was a pretty expensive trip, and there was 8-ish, I can't remember exactly, but maybe about 6, 7, 8-ish people completely paid for. Now, like I said, that's the power of the personal brand, and I actually experienced this myself because that's the point I was going to. A lot of people will be like, yeah, well, organic marketing is slow. I would love to be able to just create an offer and sell it and make, 50 grand, 100 grand, but I don't have an audience. So number one, start building one. Because look at me, I run a paid advertising agency. I'm an advocate for paid ads, and there's tons of benefits which we can talk about. But I also understand the power of organic marketing because I've worked for multiple people who had a strong audience, and it just makes so much money. So just like me, I don't have a big audience right now, and I can't necessarily go out and do that right now and create an offer and launch it to my 10 YouTube subscribers and make a load of money. But I'm trying to start that. It's funny, I speak to a lot of people, I think some guys last week who I met, and they actually had decent followings on YouTube and stuff. And I get asked this a lot, what's the purpose of the channel? What are you doing with it? And to be honest, sometimes I don't really know. Because I don't, someone commented actually the other day on one of my videos, hey, I want to join your mid/high ticket coaching program. Can you give me the details? And I was like, no, I don't have one. And no offense to people watching this video, but 99% of those people who are watching this video probably aren't a right fit to work with my agency. I do get quite a few people booking calls with me, and just from a revenue point of view, it doesn't make sense to work together right now because number one, with our fee / the ad spend / the potential profit that we want to make out of the deal, for most people, they're not at that level. So it's not really I've got clients from Twitter, but actually YouTube don't really get agency clients from here. So I don't really get agency clients. I don't really get I don't have a high ticket / mid ticket coaching program. I do have a Facebook ads self-paced course, but it's less than 0.1% of my income probably. So I don't really have a purpose right now of creating this channel of I'm selling and making a shit ton of money from making these videos, because I'm definitely not. There's no real revenue generated from these videos specifically. But I just know it's a long-term asset that if I can keep consistent over the long term, in the future, I'm going to be able to use it business-wise. And there's intangible benefits to making videos and stuff in terms of credibility, authority, social proof, that aren't directly, linked to someone clicking a link and buying from you. But like from a direct financial point of view, it's not making money right now or very little. So, but I say to people, well, like, it's just a long-term play. Like, I know eventually I am going to be able to use it once you grow an audience. So that's number one. If you don't already have one, then you need to start. But number two, you can also do what I did, and you don't have to wait. You can just go and partner with people with organic audiences and make a load of money that way. I've done this multiple times, but I did this exactly in earlier this year. So I got a deal with a guy who has a large/strong brand online, and we basically collabed 50-50 on an offer together. We've sold it twice, actually. We sold it towards the end of last year, and we sold it again at the start of this year. At the start of this year, I did the numbers literally the other day because I wrote an email a little bit about it. Did I write about it? There we go. So when we launched it early this year, we made $106,000 in cash profit. So that doesn't include payment plans, but just cash profit on, at the end of Open Cart Week when we did the launch. And I took home, I don't really love talking about income because it's a bit douchey. And yeah, I suppose it doesn't really matter, but like, there's a lot of people doing a lot bigger numbers than me, so it's not that impressive. But I took home $49,000 from that split, so just under half. And then I used that money then to, not all of it, I didn't spend that much on the trip, but there's a trip that I always wanted to do, which was to go and travel Route 66 in the US again. Keep doing this to go to the US. And I did that in April this year, spent 2.5 weeks traveling from, I think I started in Chicago, went basically through the country and ended up in Arizona. Anyway, that was like a bucket list trip again that I've always wanted to do for the last few years. And I was able to do it by leveraging someone else's large organic audience. So I did a collab with them, made about $50K from that cash, made a bit more obviously by the end of all the payment plans that came in over the next few months. But just cash from week one, made about $50K. And then I took obviously a portion of that and spent that with the Route 66 trip. So again, I had all these kind of like premium trips in my mind that I wanted to do. And I was like, okay, so how can I collab with someone who has an audience? We'll make them an offer. I'll get a cash injection in, and then I'll use that money to pay for some trips. So that way it doesn't, my agency has me a certain amount of income, and I have a different business with a business partner that gives me a certain amount of income. And that way I can keep my regular expenses and my regular money as it is. And then I just use those collab offers with different creators to get, cash in. And I can use that to, go on these trips. Obviously, I'm not saying spend all of the money that you make on these collab offers to go and just spend it straight away. But again, it's a really cool thing when you have an audience that you can tap into, whether it's your own or whether it's someone else's, to be able to just tap into that, create like a bit of cash straight away. That gives you the ability to go and spend it on stuff that you really want to do versus, taking that money or saving that money from like your regular income. So I've done it both ways. Well, not done it both ways because I don't have a big enough audience, but I've seen it happen where I worked for someone who had a big audience and we did it that way. But I've also then gone and struck deals with people who have a big audience because I don't have one and basically done the same thing. So it's that ability to be able to just create an offer and create cash straight away versus paid ads where not only do you have to spend money before you start making money, but you have to test. The audience is colder, so it's harder to convert. Like there's so many different variables that is why, you would rather have a huge, growing, in momentum, strong, organic audience versus just spending money on paid ads and not having an audience at all. As long as, again, it is a good, strong audience. Like I mentioned at the start of the video, tons of people out here have big audiences, but they don't make any money from it because they built the audience in the wrong way and they don't have the right relationship with the audience. Obviously, there is, I believe, a place for paid ads in most businesses. I mean, kind of my whole agency has been built off again, going after people with big organic audiences. So I know they are good business people. I know they're good on camera. I know they've got kind of like a proven offer, or at least like a proven niche, or they themselves are kind of like proven to be able to like gather attention. And then I work with them and we help them scale by running their ads for them. So that's basically what my agency was built on, going to people with strong audiences. And because I knew also, obviously as well, they had the money to pay me because I knew they were already making money, and I just helped them scale with paid ads. So the cool thing about paid ads is when you obviously you have a proven offer, a proven company, a proven concept, then you aren't relying on the algorithm to scale, which can be unreliable. You're relying on ads, which is much more reliable. However, if it comes like scale, paid ads is really good. But when it comes down to creating and testing an offer, or just creating a surge of cash into your business, that's why organic marketing is so powerful. So I suppose the lesson is that even if like I said, number one, go and start building your audience, because even if it's not a big priority, even if it's not making you money right now, further down the line is going to be some form of asset that you can use to monetize in some way. Or number two, don't wait and just do what I did and start looking for people with big audiences that could use your help and start collabing with them to do the exact same thing. So yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.